Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic: don't bet on the grave. History says don't hope on this side of the grave, but then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that a further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells. Seamus Heaney, The Cure at Troy. My human meme friend, we all have our wounds against hope. We are all hobbled in some way, broken in some major fashion, and yet we endure through the pain and the grief. And we are able to keep moving after wiping up the pus and draining away the blood. And yet, we forget about others. We forget about our brothers and our sisters, who are also broken just like us. And they, just like us, are hurt and wanting something better. And it is then, in that midst of our misplaced glory and stolen valor, that we forget the history that binds us and bound us together. Too often we turn to history for comfort. We return home. We become the grave. We yearn to learn our lessons that we failed to master in this life. And that's always a mistake. We want to learn from the errors of others when that is not quite completely possible any longer. We return to the grave, expecting to find ourselves staring back. And we only find ghosts and bones and what might have been, and not really what was, or what is supposed to be. We are tempted by remembering. We are misbegotten by the mirage of the story. We are encapsulated in the amber of memory. The grave calls out to us, and instead of recoiling, we rejoice. And once we have bet on the grave, and not on ourselves, and not on the life we currently lead, we believe the death know more about us than we could ever hope to know about each other. We become stuck in a reminiscent past that clings to us like a spider's web upon the unwilling wings of a fly caught in the act of the past. To break the enchantment, we must step away from the headstone and take control of our own modern lives. Modern to us, anyway. For the dead, well, my human meme friend, well, their lives were just as modern to them as we falsely believe ours are to us now. If you must live in the margins, make sure you are the one creating the frame of your grimace. And so, if we cannot bet on the grave, then how do we judge others and evaluate their decisions? Well, they, the dead around us, lived in a certain time and around a specific context. And we may not be able to understand it all or them at all, but we do know enough that they lived and died. And in that similar expectation, we must be wary. Because if there's one thing we really do know, it is this: that life is cheap, and opportunities are rare, rare as our unearned earthly elements. We only have a limited stock of wonder to spare before we grow older and become more aged and a bit more cynical. Once you've seen it all, there isn't much left that's interesting or even intriguing. And yet we are entertained by the advent foolishness of those who are too young to know what's already happened, and who are too immature to touch the grave, let alone bet on it. But you know that with experience and disappointment, everyone touches that hot stove of history, hoping to take home a lesson with meaning, but without getting burned. If it was good enough for them, then it's fine enough for me. But what that understanding misinterprets is the venality of verity, that there is no universal truth, except that the problem is, the truth is true. And while we all may have our private insights, there is only one truth that binds us, only one reality to be had and to be shared. And if we argue against the truth of the grave, then we become lost in the littler facts of living. For you see, my human being friend, the grave isn't just about what happened, but rather the grave is only about what was about to happen next. And yes, what was next, what was hoped for, what was expected to happen, all came crashing down in the darkness. And then we cure the effervescent ending of it all, the coming of the irrevocable sentence, and the unappealing pardon. There can only be disappointment in the final lighting, for no human soul has ever hoped for the earth against the sky. So throw your money on today, not tomorrow. Bet on the moment that surrounds you right now, because the next instant of inhalation might be your last exhalation. Allow the mistake. Expect the demise. Decay of ability is the natural progression for every long-lived life. So don't howl against the night, or berate the wind for bringing you one step closer to touching your own headstone. Blaze your own path. Know history, but don't be beholden to it. Find your path, create a light, and let it guide you forward and never backward. You are the sky. You are the earth. You are the oceans in need of navigation and crossing. Along the way, you will meet others bound forward on similar journeys, up from the earth, yearning for the stars. Embrace them. Add your light to their light, and make your pathway wider and deeper. Life is about the drama of exploration. You will find tension in that dark corner. You will find delight in crossing a horizon that never arrives. And along the way, you will become wounded. You will carry a hurt that is not your own. You will be challenged to stop, blame, and stay where you are, in a joyful stasis, convinced against your own wishes that it is for your own good and for your own continued safety to remain just so. And you will thank the dead for their concern, and then you must stand up and carry along your way, because we must always be racing away from the grave, only to find death waiting for us on the other side of the circle. Life is about creating lots of circles and then closing them, and some of us just create half a life, perhaps just a hint of a circle. And then we get distracted and turned around, and we never finish what we started. And that is the danger of the temptation of the grave. Why move forward? Why risk injury against a breaching ocean when you could just stop, right here for a moment. Catch your breath. Have a seat. Place your tired head upon that boulder and fall deep into the calm and pleasurable practice of your ever after. My human being friend, wake up. Do not rest. Do not admit. Do not race the sky. Never confess the hint of the grave is appealing, because there is no way forward once you tumble down in resolve, and you become the dark bits of the bets you did not make. Oh yes, bets, the wily wagers against life that you can no longer bear or transpire. And yet you are surrounded by conclusions and results and reputations that you now owe to others, instead of paying off to yourself. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.